Hello everybody, welcome to the Abbots Address. Today is Monday, March 21st, 2016. So spring has arrived and things are blooming and springing and all that kind of stuff outside the farm right now, and it's really lovely. So a couple of things are going on. There always are. First, a question came in, and this is a little bit maybe a funny question for some people, but for some people I think maybe not. So recently, there was a Sangha member who has a family member that has grave concern about their involvement in Zen practice and meditation in general. And the conversation is something like, listen, you folks sitting in meditation and doing this paying attention to your breath business is little more or less than opening a gateway for Satan and demons to come in and possess you and take you to terrible ends. And it kind of took me aback because I rarely hear such a stark critique. But there it was. And for the person that I'm talking about, this is very real. It wasn't a funny thing at all for that person. And definitely for the Sangha member for whom this is their family speaking. And so how to respond? I mean, what can one say, if anything, in such a situation? Well, it's incredibly difficult. You've got to realize that if you're interacting with someone who has a worldview like that, it's going to be very, very difficult to make any kind of meaningful connectivity with the practice of Buddha Dharma and what we're doing and their frames of reference. That's just going to be impossible, really. If a person has really got themselves tightly wound around a worldview and a concept that says there's a chosen set of people that are on the inside of a divinely revealed truth, and anyone who isn't precisely in alignment with their exact way of understanding that is banished to eternal punishment in the afterlife, it's going to be very hard to interact with them because there's a ton of fear. There's just tons and tons of fear that is what's propping that up and keeping it in place. This is a psyche. I'm not talking about this individual person anymore. I'm talking in general. A person, one who is in such a place, is in an incredibly fearful mental state and place. And it's a constant concern over stepping outside the line and a constant need to reaffirm that one is inside the line. And so, trying to explain what we're doing might have some effect if the person is a little bit further up the developmental chain, if they're willing to say or see that perhaps their way of understanding the divine is a way that's very meaningful and deep and real for them, but maybe perhaps not the only way to relate to one's life. Then you can have some kind of a dialogue with them. But if not, then not. And part of the trouble here is that we have to let go of thinking that if we say the right phrase or use some biblical quote, be still and know that I'm God or something. Well, they've got a dozen verses to come back at you with, and it's just not going to work out. So what I really recommend a person does in this situation, if you're a practitioner of the Dharma and you realize that this is true for you and nourishing and important and real, and there are people that are close to you that are convinced that you're on the highway to hell, so to speak, and here's what I advise. First of all, stay very open and connected with those folks if you can. Make it very clear that you're not disassociating from them, or you're not willing to speak to them anymore, or anything like that. It's very important that you try to continue to have as normalized a conversation and engagement with those folks as you can in other settings, if it's possible. And then really, that's a time to really let your practice come up and be real. These folks are, like I said, based in fear, in my view. That's how I read it. And so then the antidote is love, really, is kindness, is patience, is generosity. I mean, this kind of thing is to just really be incredibly generous and open and giving and extremely patient and have no expectations whatsoever that you're going to be able to say the right thing or do the right thing and suddenly they're going to feel okay about it. Because you know what? They just might not. They might not ever. And so be it. So be it. Now, it could be that in some extreme situations, the person's fear is so intense that they actually can't abide being around anyone in any meaningful way that doesn't completely configure to their worldview. To me, that's really scary. Now we're talking about serious cult level mentality, going off and living with people who have all drunk the same kind of Kool-Aid and can't be in dialogue with any other worldviews or anything. That's really tough. If that's your situation, it's not your fault. This isn't personal to you. You could be far, far, far closer to their worldview, but kink over just a touch, and suddenly no. Example would be Sunni Shia or Protestant Catholic in Ireland, or etc. There's tons of examples of this. There's different sects of the correct Orthodox Judaism in Israel, and it's got to be this way, not that way. And to an outsider, they look the same, but inside their world, it's not the same, and it's a big deal. So, a kind of a letting go, if that's the case, and really trusting yourself. I know for me, and for the students that practice here, this is an incredibly nourishing, real practice. It's the hardest work I've ever encountered in my life, and also the most meaningful. And so, to people who are a little further development or up the development scale, simply being there in compassion and love and kindness and humor and generosity and presence, should assuage any fears of horns growing from your head and that, terrible things. Which, by the way, I mean, what that really is that's the male fertility figure from the pagan times turned into the arch enemy in Christianity. It's a whole other conversation. Kind of interesting. Different one, though. So I think that's the best I have to say on that. If someone's really, really not going to hear you, then you have to just be really open to the fact that they're not going to hear you. Hold fast in your own truth and be open, loving, and kind, and patient. And you have to really let go of, what is it in you and us that's needing them to agree or affirm, and put some attention on that. So I wish I had a better thing to say. I wish I could say, quote this verse and they'll think it's great, but for a certain person it won't work like that. Yeah, so sorry. Painful, but true. So, happier news, other news. There's a couple of important workshops that are happening this weekend. Last Sunday we had an introduction to Buddhism at the temple. It was fantastic. We had, 15 people or something like that, 12, whatever. Vital, interesting people that were interested in what we do. It was a great experience. Thank you, Kaishin and Enmei, for helping be a part of the presentation, and Heidi for welcoming and greeting. That was a great help to me and to the community. This, let me look at my little cheat sheet here. Oh no, don't do that. There we go. No, it's my iPhone rebuking me. So Saturday, yes, this Saturday, I'm doing a workshop on Dharma and creativity. This is the main theme of the Ongo period, the training period we're in. And we're going to start at 2 o'clock and go till 4, unless 5. I think my machine's telling me 5, so we'll have to go from 2 to 5. There's no charge for this if you're a temple member. If you're not a member, there's a suggested donation of some amount. I don't know what it is, probably $30 or something. But it's a suggested donation. And I'm going to be covering there this business of how creativity works and interacts with and is actually the blooming and flourishing of, in my view, the flowering of the Buddha Dharma. And so we'll be talking specifically about this, how it works, and not just creating fine art, but actually creating a life, a creative human full life. So I'm really looking forward to this. It's going to be a lot of fun. I've got a few tricks up my sleeveless sleeve, and it's good. It's going to be a good time. So I really do hope you come out. It applies to finding your way in the world and dealing with difficult conversations like the one I was talking about earlier, actually. So please come and be a part of that. Now, the next day, on Sunday, which is what, the 27th, I'm going to be doing a different workshop. That's at 2 o'clock. Also, I have in my book till 5. And this was responding to some folks who are in their younger, early adult years that are we so-called the quarter life crisis is a term I've heard. Folks who are graduated college recently or nearing graduating college, undergraduate kind of age, somewhere in there. And there's a whole bunch of folks in that demographic in the community, and they're facing very certain specific kinds of challenges having to do with how to work in the world, right livelihood, and how does right livelihood actually apply today and in today's settings and circumstance. And this is open to anyone who's in that demographic who wants to be a part of the conversation. I know that there's a number of folks who are not directly involved in the Sangha. They're sort of in the kind of periphery, outside, floating around the Sangha, that are kind of involved, kind of not. And then folks who I haven't met yet. And everybody's welcome. If you're in that situation and you would like to hang out with the likes of me and see what I might have to bring to bear to the topic, please come. So that's this Sunday at 2 o'clock after our regular service. Final announcement I'll go into here is that we are having our Sunday morning On the Buddhist Path classes during Ango. It starts at 9:30, ends at 10:30, and it's very important for your training in the Dharma, in my view, in Doan's view, to be there. We've worked very diligently to put together this program, and we feel very excited about it. We are, to my knowledge, the only Zen teachers who are authorized to teach what's called the Lam Rim in the Gelugpa lineage of Tibetan Buddhist practice. And there's very specific things about that teaching that are very useful in terms of having a cognitive overview of Buddhism and Buddhist practice. So very valuable, very useful. Please participate if you can. Final thing is that Sesshin is been amended a little bit. We've changed the schedule. Make sure if you're going to be participating in Sesshin, and I hope you are, that you pay attention to the new start times. We're going to be starting just a little bit earlier, and some of the periods throughout the day have adjusted a little bit to conform to more rigorous standards that are more in alignment with the kind of training I had growing up with Zen Mountain and Boundless Way and so on. So it's going to be exciting. The Sangha is ready for this, and it's time. So thank you, everybody. See you in the Zendo.